Hey guys, Eckhart Slaughter here. Hello and welcome to the first episode of a very new series, Halo Starship Versus. If you visited my channel before, I'm sure you can figure out what this is. We're going to take two ships in the Halo universe, put them head to head, and try to predict which one would come out on top. I won't be updating this series super frequently, and I think you'll see Halo ships appear more in my Star Wars Starship Versus series rather than individual episodes here. So today we're looking at two of the most powerful ships in the Halo universe, the UNSC Infinity and the CSO Class Covenant Supercarrier. This matchup should be very interesting. One of these ships has a humongous size advantage. The CSO Supercarrier is 29 kilometers long. At just 5.5 kilometers long, the UNSC Infinity is only 1/5 of the size of the CSO. However, the human ship is chock-loaded with Forerunner technology and possesses more weapons per pound than arguably any ship in the Halo universe. In putting these two ships head-to-head, we're going to evaluate them in several categories: firepower, shielding, fighter support, and intangibles. But it's not a race to see which ship can win more categories. We're looking at the matchup overall, and we're going to pick the ship that is better in the end. The only other thing I will say is that each ship is presumed to be commanded by equally skilled persons, so we're not looking at whether the UNSC or whether the Covenant had better commanders and officers and pilots. We're focusing on the ship. However, both vessels will have Covenant and UNSC warriors on board. Alright, let's start with weaponry, and I truly believe that this battle comes down to whether the UNSC's MAC cannons can really destroy and disable the CSO Class Supercarrier. So that's what I'm going to be focusing a large portion of this video on. And I know I've talked about the Infinity's weapons in previous videos, but I'm going to start fresh today and kind of rethink how I treat them. So the UNSC has 4 super heavy Series 8 MACs. Now, for those who don't know, MAC stands for Magnetic Accelerator Cannon, and you can kind of picture it as like a giant coil gun or a giant railgun, although there are some differences. These cannons were extremely powerful. Even the Mark V Super Mac, which is a few generations older and presumably less powerful, was capable of cutting through almost any Covenant ship and destroying another one behind it. Like I said, the UNSC Infinity presumably has more powerful cannons than even those on a Super Mac platform. The ship was able to punch a hole through the mantle's approach, while the orbital platforms carrying the Super Macs were not able to. And I think this putting a hole in the mantle's approach is actually a very impressive feat for the ship. Although the mantle's approach was not disabled, it did have a hole large enough for Master Chief to fly through it. Keep in mind, the mantle's approach was not only a Forerunner ship, but was the personal flagship of the Didact created during the reign of the Forerunner Empire. Presumably the ship was not only very powerful, but also very, very durable, so the fact that one of the Infinity's cannons was able to put a hole in it is mighty impressive, and doesn't make me feel too good for the Covenant ship. Anyway, back on to topic. The UNSC Infinity has 4 of these MACs, 2 on the front and 2 on each side of the ship. In addition, the Infinity also had an extensive network of point defense weapons, missile launchers, and other anti-capital ship weapons, but the main feature here really is the MAC. Let's now look at the CSO Class Supercarrier. As I've mentioned in previous videos, we don't really have exact numbers for the kind of weapons that the CSO would have had. However, we do know that it would have made extensive use of energy projectors. These weapons are effective at long range and are able to cut apart unshielded human ships. I do wonder exactly how effective these would be against the UNSC Infinity, a ship which supposedly has almost an infinite amount of energy to pump into its shields, largely due in part to the advanced Forerunner technology that it uses. However, we do know that at the ambush at Oth-Loden, a Covenant glassing station with 3 shots was able to disable the Infinity. Some have said that perhaps the ship was not ready for battle, and maybe that was the case, but I still think that it's worth mentioning here. Other than that, the CSO would have used traditional anti-capital ship and anti-starfighter weaponry, but again, the main feature here is the energy projectors. So let's now talk about defensive capabilities. We'll start with the CSO Class Supercarrier, and unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to say about this ship. Obviously, it's very, very large. Presumably it has a very powerful and extensive shielding system. We also know that it's upgraded with Forerunner technology, although not to the same extent of the Infinity. We've only actually seen one of these ships, and it was destroyed by a slip space bomb, a very powerful weapon. So I'm not going to hold that as a knock against it. I'm just going to say that this ship is very, very strong, and probably the most powerful capital ship used by the Covenant. The Infinity is also very, very durable. I mean, one of the first things we see the ship do is run straight through a Covenant capital ship. Its shields take the damage, and the Infinity goes on basically about its day with no problems whatsoever. The ship also has advanced Forerunner energy shields, and it's actually the first UNSC ship to make use of shielding technology. Much of the Covenant shielding technology was developed from reverse engineering Forerunner artifacts. The Infinity, on the other hand, made use of technology directly captured from the shield world of Trevelyan with the help of Forerunner Huragox. It's my opinion that the UNSC Infinity probably has more advanced shielding. However, keep in mind that the CSO is like 5 times longer, so probably has more power available to its shields. Like with weaponry, I'm not going to choose a winner for this category, I'm just going to move on. Alright, so let's now talk about fighter complement and fighter support. Both the Infinity and the Covenant Supercarrier would have carried an unknown amount of fighters in their hangars. Based on what we know about Halo space battles, which is that they are very quick, with usually the winning ship getting 1 or 2 shots off and destroying the losing ship, I don't think the fighters are going to be terribly consequential here. However, the Infinity does have something extra. It has 10 Trident class heavy frigates which it carries in its underbelly. While these ships are fairly small, you shouldn't underestimate them. They each have a magnetic accelerator cannon on them, so that's like 10 extra max coming into battle with the Infinity. They also have shielding, which again is fairly impressive for a ship of its size. Alright, let's move on to Intangibles, and we'll talk first about the CSO Supercarrier. That ship seems to have some sort of active camouflaging technology, as we saw during Reach. However, given the fact that we know the Infinity specifically makes use of Forerunner upgraded sensors, I'm not sure whether the ship will be able to hide. On the Infinity side, the ship uses very advanced slip space technology, far more advanced than that used by the Covenant, and it can make precise slip space jumps. This could be very useful on a battle. It could jump to a weak spot behind the ship, perhaps where its engines are, and do some serious damage. The UNSC Infinity also would have had hundreds of Spartan 4s on board. However, given the fact that the CSO Class Supercarrier is 29 kilometers long, it probably had hundreds of thousands, at least tens of thousands of Covenant troops on board, so boarding the ship isn't really possible. Alright, so how's this battle gonna go? We've got the 29 kilometer long CSO, a massive behemoth and truly the most powerful warship of the Covenant fleet. Going against that ship is the most advanced modern day starship, the UNSC Infinity. So here's how I see it play out. The two ships jump into open space and meet each other head to head. The very first thing that the UNSC Infinity is going to do is launch its 10 Trident class frigates. This happens extremely quickly, and the UNSC Infinity does not need to come out of battle or leave battle readiness to do so. While this is happening, both ships will be charging their main weapons. The CSO Supercarrier will hit the Infinity and probably a couple of Trident class frigates with its main weapons. The Trident class frigates will be destroyed, the Infinity will take the shot, but it will be in serious danger. At this point, the Infinity will launch its 2 forward-facing magnetic accelerator cannons. The first one will hit the Covenant shield, completely overwhelming it and leaving the ship open. The second one will pierce straight through the CSO, crippling the ship entirely. At that point, the Infinity will start charging its secondary weapons, and any surviving Trident class frigates will fire on the Covenant ship. And I truly believe that this first round of max will disable the shields of the larger ship, and if not destroy the ship completely, at least take it out of combat effectiveness. I mean, we saw that the Infinity was able to punch a hole on the Mantle's approach. This is a ship that is at least 10 times more advanced than even the CSO Class Supercarrier. So I really just do not think that the CSO will be able to tank these shots, and even if it does tank the first 2, it also has to deal with those 10 Trident frigates and perhaps some tricky slip space jumping by the Infinity. Also, we know that for most Covenant weapons, they have to lower parts of their shield to fire. I think that the Infinity will be able to make use of this weakness and hit the ship directly with a Mach round, which again, I think will be devastating. Anyways guys, that is how I see this matchup going. I think the Infinity wins, and I think it wins 6 times out of 10. The only chance that the CSO really has, if it hits the Infinity with all of its energy projectors right off the bat, and if it manages to disable or destroy the ship before it can get a couple of rounds off. But I would love to hear what you guys think. Take a second right now to vote in the upper right hand corner and let me know which ship you think would come out on top. Also, of course, let me know down in the comments, did I miss something about one of these 2 ships? If you think my analysis was spot on, let me know. Also, of course, let me know which matchups you'd like to see next, and if you see a matchup that you like in the comments, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and a supporting comment. Anyways, thank you for watching guys. I hope you enjoyed this very first episode of Halo Starship Battles, or Halo Who Would Win. I'm not really sure on the name yet, but if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and of course, if you haven't already, subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter, join our very active Discord, and if you'd like to help me improve the quality of my videos, donate to my GoFundMe page at gofundme.com/EckhartsLadder. Anyways, thank you very much guys. May the force be with you. you.